Arizona pulverized Auburn and made a statement to the rest of college basketball world that they're the best team in the land and will be number one come Monday. This is Postcast. Thanks for tuning in.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into Postcast, where Arizona pummeled Auburn. Auburn had no chance early and often. They took that slight lead on a quick run, but you knew this game was Arizona's from the get-go. The interior dominance stood out from the opening moments with those high-lows with Peat and Krivas, early offensive boards, and Arizona put in a full display of basketball, turning defense into offense and executing at a high level in the half court. Everything looked great for Arizona except for just a few tiny spurts, but when they were connected, there was nothing stopping them. Arizona blasted Auburn. And this is a top 20 team that beat St. John's, who entered the season number 5. They also played Houston, the preseason favorite in the Big 12, to a 1-point game, and Arizona dismantled them. So here are my takeaways. Arizona is too big, too strong, and too connected when they don't turn it over. They're a buzzsaw. Arizona can beat anyone in the country, whether they make threes or not, when they don't turn the ball over. Because Arizona's defense is amazing. Arizona's defense is fantastic. And there was a point of this game where Auburn, who entered this game, the 12th best offense in the country per KenPom, could hardly hit the rim, could hardly get a shot off. They were shooting full court heaves and airball floaters where they were just throwing up terrible shots, and Arizona would get runouts and score. Like the 15-0 run Arizona had that Auburn was held to 0 of 10 shooting. Arizona had a bad close to the half, and you're like, oh, man, maybe that destroys confidence. Well, 16-2 to open the half, and the game's over. Like, Arizona made Auburn look like a mid-major, and Auburn has athletes. Auburn has 2 guys that in the SEC will be all-conference, and Todd Pettiford and Keyshawn Hall. They have guys that are very, very athletic, but they don't look that way because Arizona's too big positionally. And Ivan Karchenkov playing today, and I know it wasn't that close, so it's not like, wow, Ivan Karchenkov changed this game and made him so much better. He limited Keyshawn Hall, so did Koa Peat, and Karchenkov, when you have a small forward that big, that rugged, and you can have Koa Peat, Tobe Awaka, and Mo Krivas play the front court, you're not going to get out rebounded, and you're not going to get out toughed, and they don't sacrifice with their strength any speed. They move well. Arizona also tried blitzing ball screens and forced turnovers. They turned turnovers into touchdowns, got runouts. Arizona's defense in the paint was fantastic. And that's my main takeaway of how good their defense is that turns it in on a night where Arizona shot 61% from the field. 61% against the top 20 team in the country. And this is for a team that's known for not hitting threes. Arizona shot 40% from 3, and they went 6 of 15. So quick math, that's 35 makes and out of 52 twos. That's unbelievable. That's 70 points from 2. Absolutely absurd. And Arizona can do that. They can do that. They can score 70 points from 2 and then have 18 from 3. And that's 88 points. That's going to win you any game. And then you add 9 free throws. Arizona's recipe, I've talked about this so many times. It's repeatable. No one can stop them. And by the way, Roberto, in the chat, I don't know if you've listened every day, but the everydayers who are tuned into this, I told you guys Arizona would be the number 1 team in the country by January because I thought they would start undefeated or 12-1 or even 11-2 in conference play. I thought they'd beat all these teams. UConn was the one I was scared of. Alabama was the other one. I pretty much assured they'd blast Auburn in the preseason before this game started. I just didn't like what Auburn had coming to the table. I didn't like UCLA or Florida that much. But Arizona's better than I thought, and I said Arizona would be number 1 in the country. Like, think about that. I thought Arizona would be the number 1 team in the country, and I said it. And many of you guys may have thought, oh, who's this new guy saying this? He's just trying to ingratiate himself. Arizona's better than I even thought, and I was about as high as anyone in the entire country that I spoke to or read on Twitter on the Arizona Wildcats, and they're significantly better than I thought. They destroyed Auburn. They came back and beat UCLA after trailing by 10. They came back and beat Florida after trailing by 10. They beat UConn and were better for the vast majority of the game. Right now, they're undefeated and should go undefeated other than maybe Alabama in this non-conference. Like, that's a toss-up game, and it's played in Birmingham. It's not in Tuscaloosa. Alabama plays a completely different style than most teams Arizona's faced. That's a difficult game, but Arizona can do a similar recipe to this one. Arizona can play on the interior against what is a smaller team and try to score in the interior, and Alabama's going to shoot threes. If Arizona can limit threes, I think they can win that. And they'll certainly be number one after that one, but they're already going to be number one because Purdue lost by 23 to Iowa State, and Arizona just absolutely blasted a top 20 team that had beaten a team in St. John's, that had beaten NC State, which was a darling for college basketball folks entering the year, and had played Houston, everyone's favorite, most surefire Final Four pick. They played them to a 1-point game. Arizona beat them by 29. And at times, it felt like it would have been more. I tweeted out early in this game, I'm going to find this tweet. I tweeted out in the middle of the game that it felt like Arizona was up 3 points, but it could have been 20. And it felt that way for the majority of the game. Like, I was never nervous in the game, even when Arizona had flurries of turnovers and Auburn had a little run and Pettiford had a dunk. Arizona was the best team in basketball on today. And their defense, I've said this to you guys, I knew Arizona would be a good offense. I promised you guys Arizona would be a top 10 offense and a top 15 rebounding team and a top 15 offensive rebounding team and a very impressive speed team in terms of tempo, and they're starting to pick it up. And you start to pick up tempo, and then the question was, how good is their defense? And that's why I was as high as anyone was on Arizona, but my question mark was, can they be a top 20? I think that Arizona could be a top 20 because they're huge. Well, they're so much better than I thought they'd be because they're a top 10 defense in KenPom and a top 5 defense per my eyes of college basketball. That's how good Arizona is. A day where they shoot 61% from the field, the story is that their defense is a top 5 defense in the country, and their freshmen are getting better. We're going to touch on that next and a lot more. We're going to revisit the keys I laid out for this game, and Arizona achieved a lot of those, and we'll talk about the ramifications of this game, touch on a little bit of the Alabama preview, and a lot more coming up on Postcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and bear down. What a game tonight by the Wildcats. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump onto the field seemingly and jump into the moment for sure. Live spreads, money lines, and they all adjust instantly. Player props update as the guys heat up, and you can play all those bets as the game goes. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Welcome back to Postcast. Arizona 97, Auburn 68, and frankly, I don't even think it was that close. Arizona was playing with stolen time. They didn't even care in the second half. But if you want to look at second half statistics to show how good they were, even in a half where half of it didn't matter, they shot 21 of 33 from the field. They were 9 of 11 from the free throw line, so the model of efficiency. And in the defensive flipping the script, defensively in a half where half of the time they didn't care because it was out of hand, they held Auburn to 28% field goal percentage. And this is a team that was 12th in offense before the season. Before this game, and is known to be an offensive power throughout the season. Oh, for the game, let's just review some stats. You guys know I love a few statistics. I often like to look at field goal percentage and twos made versus threes made. I already mentioned that Arizona made 35 two-pointers and 6 three-pointers, a very good recipe for Arizona because most teams are going to shoot 50-50. Arizona shot 52 twos and 15 threes, and that's on brand with them. Arizona won the rebounding battle, although by less than usual because there were fewer offensive rebounds to claim because they didn't miss very frequently. And Arizona scored 60 points in the paint. So let's revisit some keys and remember that 60 points in the paint. And also Arizona, most impressively to me, they had 23 assists. So let's review some of the keys I laid out for this game. I gave you guys my takeaways. The defense was fantastic. Offensive efficiency was good. The freshmen are getting better. But here are the keys I gave before the game. So the everydayers heard these. For those who have not, I wrote down the keys that I do previewing each game. I said win the glass by 15 boards and have 15 second chance points. Arizona won the glass by 6 boards, but like I mentioned, there just weren't enough offensive rebounds to collect because they made too many shots. I think they gave up too many offensive rebounds, but that's nitpicking a game where they won by 29. So Arizona was +6 there. And then in second chance points, Arizona had 12. So 0 for 1 in my keys, I suppose, but I want to put that with a grain of salt because Arizona was in firm control, and that was irrelevant to the script because they were scoring so frequently on the first chances. And then my second key, I want to see Arizona win points in the paint plus free throws by 20 or more points. And so I talked about this, the paint potency, like whatever you want to call it. How many points are generated by paint touches and scoring in the paint or free throws, which are drawn by drawing fouls, typically in the paint. Arizona scored 60 points in the paint and made 9 free throws. That's 69 points created out of the paint. As for Auburn, they scored 24 points in the paint and made 20 free throws. And those 20 free throws were largely in garbage time. So Arizona, 69 and 44 for Auburn. So that's plus 25. And honestly, it should have been more if there were not so many fouls in the second half. Then my third key, and by the way, for those of you who listen every day, this is going to be a tiny bit redundant, but for those of you who are listening today, this is an interesting tidbit. I talked about how Arizona should score about their average from 2, which comprises 58% of the points that Arizona scores, with free throws adding another 22%, which means 80% of Arizona's 87 points they score per game entering this, which is 70 points, I'd consider paint-oriented points. And that was 69 points right there. So it's pretty much spot on. Like Arizona is as clear-cut, like their formula. They're going to score in the paint 80% of their points, whether it's free throws plus 2s or free throws plus paint points, like true paint points, not just 2s. Arizona's going to score 70% of their points, 80% of the points, which is at least 70 points for Arizona in terms of their average. Today, Arizona scored 69 points in the paint and even more because they hit mid-range jump shots, and they only made 9 free throws. Typically, Arizona scores more from the free throw line. Like, that's a really, really strong indicator of success, that this team is going to be hard to deny offensively, and they didn't even crash the glass offensively that well. And then I said the number I think will be a touch under would be because Arizona will make more threes than they typically do. So I expect 60 to 70 points from 2 plus the free throw line. So they had 69. That fits perfectly. And Auburn will have to shoot superbly to even have a chance with Arizona if Arizona just plays decently and hits their averages. That was the analysis entering. Arizona played great. So they were far ahead, and there was no chance for Auburn. But Arizona's formula was extremely sustainable and did the trick again. And then I talked about my final key was Arizona makes 6 threes. They made 6 threes and punished the zone. Arizona got Auburn out of the zone when Ivan Karchenkov hit that 3, kind of quelling the momentum that had been built by Auburn by forcing turnovers. They only scored in transition. Like in the half court, I'd have to do some math and like chart it later. But in the half court, Auburn could not score against Arizona. And the last key I had is make Pettiford and Hall score 50-plus points combined to have a chance and limit guys like Kevin Overton to 2 or fewer threes. So if you look at the box score for Auburn, Pettiford was fantastic. He had 30 points. Keyshawn Hall, who's the leading scorer in the SEC at this point, had 13, and that was 6 garbage time free throws at the end and a layup at the end. Like, he did nothing. He had no impact on the game. And this is a guy who averaged 22 per game coming in. So that's 43 points right there on 30 shots between those two. Overton, 8 points on 1 of 8 from the field, 0 of 4 from 3. If you do take away the ancillary pieces between those guys, they'd have to score 50 or 60 to have a chance in this game. And even then, I don't think they win this one. Like, Auburn's a flawed team, but Arizona's dominant. Arizona's dominant. And they swung the ball. And the last point I want to make before I talk about kind of the Arizona's number one, why I believe that would happen before, but why Arizona's better, I want to go in depth on that. And also just kind of the outlook for the rest of non-conference. I want to point out the box score for Arizona. Let me just read you just the starting lineup down. Jaden Bradley, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists on 6 of 11 from the field. Burries, 16 points, 7-11 from the field, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 29 minutes. Like that, these are super efficient. Karchenkov, who I thought was fantastic, and he hounded Hall today. 12 points, 5 of 9 from the field, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. Koa Peat, 18 points on 8 of 11 shooting, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. Mo Krivas, 8 points, 9 rebounds. And I don't have blocks on this box score, but he altered a million shots. Like those shots that Auburn were taking, those were horrible shots because of Mo Krivas altering that shot diet. Anthony Dell'Orso, 11 points, 5 of 8 shooting. Dwayne Aristote, 8 points, 2 of 4 shooting. Tobe Awaka, 6 points, 7 boards. Like Arizona got all of their best players involved and had a good game. All of the top 8 scored 6 points or more, and Tobe Awaka easily could have scored more. He was 3 of 5 from the field, and he played only 18 minutes. Team basketball, 23 assists, 19 fast break points, 60 points in the paint, 27 bench points, and 21 points off of turnovers. This is a dominant basketball team, and this is the best team in the land by resume, by a large margin, but by eye test, it's between them. I mean, Iowa State was fantastic the other day. I still think UConn's very, very good. Arizona beat UConn, obviously, in stores. And then you get to Duke, who I don't think eye test helps out, but they're very efficient. They have, I think, the best player in college basketball in Cam Boozer. And then you look at what Arizona's done in terms of resume. This is their first home game with any relevance, and they beat a top 20 team by 29 points. We'll talk about the quest for number one, what made me believe that they'd be number one by January, and now I'm already saying they're going to be number one on Monday, and why I think Arizona can still get better and why that's scary for the rest of the world, plus preview Alabama just a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in on Postcast. Arizona demolished Auburn, and there's more where that came from for your team, the number one seed in the West, hopefully, but the number one team in the nation. All that and more coming up on Postcast on Locked On Wildcats. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure it out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. If you have grandparents, parents, newlyweds, whoever may appreciate a photo and just loves photos in general, this is going to make you a winner on holiday season. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, the number one by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now and get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout and enjoy the gift. Welcome back to Locked On Wildcats Postcast. And Arizona should be the number one team in the country. They have 4 top 20 wins. And yes, you can say, oh, Florida doesn't look as strong anymore. Yeah, we knew that. If you listen to the show for a long time, Florida came in and we did a preview with two guests, one named Jonathan Shields and one to Locked On Gators host Brandon Olson. We talked about their backcourt is all in the NBA right now. Their front line's got a lot to figure out, and their backcourt has both players playing the wrong positions. Like Xavier Lee is a point guard masquerading as a 2 guard, and you look at Boogie Fland, he's a 2 guard masquerading as a point guard. They've got a lot to figure out. They're going to be good, and they're going to end up being a top 3 or 4 seed because Todd Golden's fantastic and they rebound the heck out of the ball. And so Arizona's win will hold water. UCLA has gotten better since Arizona played them. Arizona struggled in that one. They figured out. UConn, I think, is one of the 4 best teams in the country, and Arizona went to Gamble Pavilion and beat them. They just beat the brakes off the number 20 team that beat number 5 St. John's early in the year. Their resume is undeniably the best in college basketball. You can make a case for Michigan for beating Gonzaga by 40. That's a one-off game. That is fantastic. I'm not going to dispute that is probably the most dominant win thus far, but that doesn't hold water to Arizona's resume. And if they played on a neutral floor right now, Michigan probably is favored by metrics because Ken Palm says they're the best team through 5 weeks of the season, possibly ever. I don't think they're in different worlds, though. nonetheless, Arizona will be the number one team when it happens, because you cannot overlook that they're ahead of Michigan after their Gonzaga thing last week. So it's not like, oh, that swayed so many people. And then Arizona beat Auburn by as much or maybe more than Michigan beat Rutgers. I didn't check the final score of that, but Rutgers is god awful. And Auburn's top 20 in the country, and Arizona beat them by 29. So for those of you who are naysayers, despite being Wildcats fans, I guess that's a puzzling one for me. But anyway, I think there's a legitimate case to be made that Arizona played its best game of the season and should not drop effectively in the rankings as Purdue loses by 23. Arizona deserves to leapfrog them by beating a top 20 team by 29. Like, that's my case right there. For those of you who have listened to me a ton, this will be slightly redundant. And for those of you who have not listened to me much and are joining here, this is not revisionist history. You can ask your buddies who've listened a long time. I said Arizona would be 11-2 at the worst in non-conference play. I said they would be likely 12-1, maybe 13-0 in non-conference play, and would start 7-0 in conference play because they play some of the weaker teams to start. And if they're 18-2 or better with wins that they already had, then you're going to be the number one team in the country, because no one can match that resume and the success created by beating good teams and then taking care of business against the bad teams. So that was my pitch. Arizona is the number one team in the country. I'm happy about it. It's a fun prediction to have come true, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that Arizona is number one, because what matters is continuing to get better. And continuing to get better is what Arizona is doing right now. Like, Braden Burries looked the best he's looked in any of these games. He's missed threes, and he looks like he's forcing a little bit. I was nitpicking, and I tweeted that out. I thought he forced a mid-range jump shot. I thought he forced one of the threes where he hit behind the screen and probably could have attacked it. But when he plays off 2 feet, gets downhill, and makes the defense respect him, if he starts making threes, watch out. Koa Peat is playing so controlled. He can do even more. Koa Peat can have 25 in this game easily. Instead, he goes 8 of 11, swings the ball. You can't play a zone against him. You can't play a man against him. Mo Krivas and Tobe Awaka dominate the glass. Arizona displays the ability to trap on ball screens and force turnovers on 4 consecutive possessions against an all-SEC first-team preseason projection to Todd Pettiford. Like, those things are vast improvements from where we were at the beginning of the season. Arizona's getting better and better. And that's so scary for the rest of the conference and country. They can play multiple defenses, alter your shots at the rim through drop coverage. You can switch like they did against UCLA with Tobe Awaka on an island shutting down Donovan Dent. You can trap ball screens, and Awaka and Dell'Orso trap and take it away and score a dunk in transition. They can force 4 straight turnovers. You can switch 1 through 4 and chase guys off the line without switching like you did Alex Caravan in solo ball, and take away the 3-point ability of UConn, which is known for their immaculately beautiful sets. Like, Arizona's defense is amazing. The offense looks good. They're shooting north of 37% from 3. Like, they were 37 entering, they just went 40%. So let's say 38.5% from 3. And you're able to score 60 points in the paint in this game, and you score 60% of your points on the whole season from 2. So 55% of those in the paint. Like, the formula is so repeatable. That's why I'm so high on Arizona. The team's getting better. They have 4 freshmen out of 8 rotation players, and those guys are going to grow. The players that grow the most throughout a season are the freshmen who got their feet wet, and all of a sudden, like, oh, wow, like, we've been thrust into the deep end. It's not just been Cupcake City. We've played 4 top 20 teams and beaten all of them, and now our margin of victory is going to 29 after winning by 4 and 4 and 6. Like, it's light years better. Team's getting better. The resume's rock solid, the best in the country, and the shooting, which is everyone's concern, isn't all that important. This is the most threes Arizona's made, tied for the one with UCLA in terms of the big games. And it was a non-factor. It didn't matter if Arizona made a single 3 tonight. And I mean, I guess if they zoned up and you say, okay, you need to beat the zone. But Arizona was able to get high lows and stuff without that. Arizona looked on at times when they were not turning the ball over, which seemed to be careless to me at times. They looked lacking fault. They defensively locked down Auburn to the point where they were hardly hitting the rim, and offensively got whatever they wanted to the tune of shooting north of 60% for an entire game. That's a great team. Let's talk about Alabama really quickly before signing off here. Alabama, a couple things to know, and I'm doing this without looking through their Ken Palm or anything. Alabama plays one of the fastest paces in the country. That's not a problem for Arizona. Alabama shoots a ton, and I mean a ton of threes. They're not very good on defense. They do have bigger bodies than Auburn, but they don't play like true bigs. Like Aiden Sherrill is a pick and pop 5, but he has the length to, at least get a few rebounds. But he's not like an athletic leaper big. They have numerous guards that can get into the paint. And I think they have a top 10, top 15 pick on their team. LeBaron Philon, I think, is the best guard in the SEC. People thought it'd be Todd Pettiford. I was a team LeBaron Philon guy because he's bigger. And that's an NBA draft type of thing. But now in the frame of college basketball, he's better too. LeBaron Philon last year played second fiddle to Mark Sears, and now he's better than Mark Sears was, and Mark Sears was a first-team All-American. So LeBaron Philon is going to be a problem. Jaden Bradley can guard him. Jaden Bradley's job is not going to be to outscore LeBaron Philon. It's going to be limit of LeBaron Philon. And then the question is, can you have all those bigs impact shots, the shot chart for Alabama? Because Alabama doesn't shoot mid-range jump shots. They don't really run sets to come off screens and shoot threes. They play fast, and they penetrate, kick out, and shoot threes. Aiden Holloway, LeBaron Philon, Houston Millette, those guys just hoist the ball up. And Arizona is going to get repeatable two-pointers. Can you win with twos against the barrage of threes that Alabama wants to get? Alabama is going to lose games this year where they're cold from three and they can't do anything else. They've lost already this year with that same recipe. But they're capable of beating anyone in the country because if they're hot from three, there is some seriousness to the analytics. There's a reason to shoot all those threes. But I'm still a firm believer Arizona should win this game. Even though it's in Birmingham, it's not a true road game. It's similar to Inglewood when they played UCLA. Arizona should win this game because their defense is going to deter all paint chances for Alabama, so they'll solely have to rely on threes. And Alabama does not ever take mid-range jump shots, but nor does UConn, and UConn had to because of Arizona was able to chase over those screens. Arizona's just got to have their track shoes ready and get back on defense at warp speed because they're going to score and get plenty of second chances against a team that has athletes, but they're slender. They're not super tall. They're not super strong. Arizona's just got to get back on defense and run shooters off the line and hope that, a guy like Holloway, who is the ultimate green light guy, isn't shooting well. Because if he's not shooting well, he's going to keep shooting, but they're not necessarily good shots. Arizona's going to get great shots. Alabama, if they get good shots, it's scary because they knock down threes at a high clip. But if they're not shooting good ones, I like Arizona's chances quite a bit. So I'll get into that in depth a couple times next week. I'll have a guest on to talk about Alabama. And I think the previews this week nailed it spot on. So let's reevaluate the keys, right? Beat them in the paint, dominate on the interior, happened from the get-go. Defense was even better than we thought, and Arizona laid claim to being the number one team in the land. It's really that simple. You play the defense like Arizona played today against a team that can score like Auburn, and you do that every night, Arizona can win 28 games in the regular season, go 28-3. That's not even a crazy take. I did my preseason show, and I said Arizona should go 26-5. And I still think that's probably closer just because of the quality of the Big 12 at the top. But Arizona can go 13-0 in non-conference. Let's say 12-1, just play it conservative, which is crazy because, I was talking to you guys on Twitter and asked what's the best likelihood of a non-conference. And Ken Palm says it was 9-4. I was like, are you kidding me, Ken Palm? There's no way. Arizona's better than UCLA, better than Florida. I don't know if I would say better than UConn, but they beat UConn. And then I like their chances in this game awful lot. And analytically entering the season, it was supposed to be 8-5 or 9-4. And then in the conference play, you're getting 10-8. No chance. This team is way too good to win 20 games. So I saw no chance that happened. But I think right now, the record doesn't surprise me. The quality of the defense and what I see as still having growth potential is alarming. I'm going to give a really quick analogy. This is going to be for the college basketball diehards. Arizona has way more room to grow than a lot of teams last year did that were really good to start the year on what was one of the better years of college basketball where all the one seeds made the Final Four. Auburn last year was the best team in November, but they'd hit their peak too early because they were a veteran-laden team. And they were a very system, timing, flex offense-oriented team, where if they would double team Janai Broome, they'd hit threes. If you could play them straight up, they wouldn't beat you as much. Arizona reminds me more, and I said this before the season, you guys took it as an insult to talk about Duke. Arizona reminds me more of last year's Duke team. because they're enormous. Defensively, they change everything around the rim, make you shoot bad shots, and offensively, they're efficient. And they may not have a Cooper Flag. Koa Peat's fantastic, but it's not a slight to say he's not Cooper Flag. And Con Knippel is probably better than Braden Burries. Those are my like one-to-one comparisons. But Arizona has the youth as they continue to get better because they're freshmen. Their ascension makes them harder to beat than teams that are already good but have a ceiling that's already been tapped into. To me, Iowa State is more in that regard because I think Iowa State is playing great because they're veteran. I think they all know their roles. They're excelling in their roles. But they have 3 really good players, and the rest of the guys I think are a little inconsistent. They play their roles hard, but it's hard to do so when it's reliant on 3. Arizona's got 8 dudes. Arizona, to me, has the most growth room of any top team in the country. And Duke would be the only other one because they also rely on a lot of freshmen. But Arizona is a far more egalitarian attack. Like, it's Cam Boozer or sink. It's not Koa Peat or sink for Arizona. Anyway, I rambled there. But thank you guys for tuning in for Locked On Wildcats Postcast. Arizona, you're number 1 come Monday. We'll have a podcast about that coming your way Monday before the AP polls announced. I'm just assuming it's true. If I'm wrong, I'll talk about that too. But Arizona, to me, best team in the country by resume, arguably the best by eye test, and certainly played like the best team in the country today, winning by 29 against the Auburn Tigers. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back with you on Locked On Wildcats on Monday. Send me any thoughts you had about the game, any predictions for the rest of the season, thoughts about the Bama game, what you want me to analyze. I'll reply to all of it. Appreciate your guys' support, and I'll certainly keep you privy to my thoughts on Arizona's chances to beat Auburn and Alabama in a 1-week span.